Hi, everybody. It's JJ Conway. We're trying out some new technology today. I want to thank you for joining me with our Building Wealth Together presentation for tonight. I'm just throwing a little off because I'm trying to pre-record this, and I've already got likes, which tells me I did something wrong. All right. Well, hey, I want to welcome everybody to Building Wealth Together. As everybody knows, we're in the process of retiring from the military, and so our schedule's a little off. I'll be at Police Academy in the morning. So if you're watching this Saturday morning, this is a pre-recorded episode, but I want to thank you so much for being here. Let me know how it goes, and if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me, and we will be absolutely sure to get you the answers you need. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to turn on the lights. So just bear with me just a second. And if you wonder why I'm not wearing a mask, it's because I'm here by myself. All right, here we go. Today we're going to talk about creative financing. And I know that this screen is going to be a little hard to see. So there's going to be times where we get more detailed and I'm going to make it full screen for you, okay? But for now, I'm excited about bringing you this content. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. All right. For those of you who are new to my body of work, this is part of the Building Wealth Together monthly meeting. We meet every first Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning. And let me put it back on me. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the group here in just a second. All right. So if I can get the screen to go. What am I doing here? Okay, I can get the screen or I can get the clicker, but apparently I can't get both. All right, well, in this case, I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have to leave it set on me and a little screen. I want to be in there though. I want you guys to see me. Okay, so what we're gonna talk about today is we are going to talk about the Building Wealth Together group, who we are, and then we're also going to talk about the creative financing strategy. All right, creative financing, we'll talk about in a second, is really anything that's not regular financing, okay? And so I'm going to give you two promises today. The first promise I'm going to give you is I'm going to teach you something that you can start implementing today. Now, most of the classes that I give you this promise, you really have some juicy things that you can implement that night and actually have money in your pocket by the end of the week, right? This one is a little different. Unless you're already implementing some of the real estate strategies that we've been covering since April, you will not really be able to just go out there and materialize a creative financing deal right away. But I'm going to promise you, if you've been doing these things and you've been analyzing deals and you've been getting out there and making offers, you can work these strategies immediately, okay? Now, that's one promise. The other promise I've got for you today is that I'm going to give you an opportunity to dig deeper. I cannot cover 20 years of real estate investing in 45 minutes to an hour that we have today, okay? So I'm just going to have to leave a few things behind the scenes. I'm going to have to just hit the waypoints. And if you want to get more details, we will do that at the end. I'll give you an opportunity to dig deeper, okay? All right, so those are my two promises before we begin. Admin notes. This is our fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. So I'm asking you, I know I can't control anybody's behavior, and I know I've screenshotted a fair amount of presentations in my day, but I've always donated when they've asked me to donate, okay? So I'm asking you today, if you take screenshots, if you find this content valuable, please go and donate towards our Global Youth Initiative. We do it every April and every October. And even with COVID, I'm still serving youth in the community, just virtually, okay? You can PayPal to ministerwiggins@gmail.com. Also, Queen of Cashflow is my paypal.me handle. You can do Queen of Cashflow on Cash App. That's me, right? And bit.ly/love helping. That'll take you to my Square checkout page where you can also get some of my signed books and things like that, okay? We will open up the line for questions at the end. Like I said, I am pre-recording this. So if you ask a question what I will be able to do is actually go in and type a response, but I won't be able to answer it as we ebb and flow, okay? But those of you who are registered at buildingwealthtogether.com, you know I'm very good about answering your questions, all right? So if you want to ask an anonymous question, normally that email there at the bottom, that's what you would do, right? But we're not going to be able to do that today. If you have a question about this content, post it in the Facebook feeds. Make sure you tag me or I might miss it, right? Especially if you create your own watch party. Hey, wait a second. Why don't you do that? If you are enjoying this, or you've enjoyed, we haven't gotten into this one yet, okay. If you know that you've enjoyed these in the past, go ahead and start a watch party. Start a watch party, and then if you have comments or questions, or your friends have comments or questions they want me to answer, make sure you tag me by name, because I'm going to get so many notifications in Facebook, I may miss your comment or your question. All right. You can also join our Building Wealth Together group on Facebook, and that way you can ask your questions, and I see all of those. All right. So what is this Building Wealth Together? Well, let me tell you what we're not. We are not get rich quick. Okay, there's a lot of get rich quick schemes out there. There are a lot of late night TV specials that talk about real estate for pennies on the dollar. Real estate for pennies on the dollar is absolutely a real thing, but this isn't a get rich quick thing. We are more about get rich right. We want to help people build wealth, dump debt, leave a legacy with accountability, education, ethics. We offer financial and investment and entrepreneurial education that will help you further your dream. Now, for those of you who are new to Building Wealth Together, from April till about October, November, we do real estate, and then the rest of the year we do entrepreneurial mindset training. Not only to get us ready for the new year, and then also to help us start the new year off right. So whatever business you're in, you will find some benefit from being a member of Building Wealth Together. Now, when I say being a member, you might be surprised, because our first Saturday of the month meetings are always free. Yes, they are, but there are benefits to paid membership. And one of those benefits is you get to advertise your businesses or your deals at our open mic at the beginning of every meeting. I didn't have any submitted for today, so we're not going to do that, but I am going to show you our sponsors on the next page, okay? You also get first dibs on trying my new classes for free. Like any public speaker, I'm going to do a class for free a couple times before I launch it to a paid audience. That's really what the Building Wealth Together meetings are, right? But the VIP members, they actually get it before the Building Wealth Together meetings. They get my initial chicken scratch, and they get my off-the-cuff thoughts. And so those are more raw and more real. And sometimes people find more value out of those before I polished it up than they do from the actual meeting. So if that's something that you're interested in, you definitely want to become a VIP member. Also, I am continually adding more and more of our previous meetings, and we started in 2015. So we've got 5 years of content now. We're planning for our 6th annual conference, depending on what COVID does. And so we have really been doing a lot. And every year the price of membership goes up, because now you're getting access to all those old videos. All right. These are our sponsors. Some sponsors are monthly sponsors, some are yearly sponsors, and some, like the bottom two, Flutter by Nature's Oils and Steel Bayou, were so very helpful when we first got started that they have been termed lifelong sponsors, okay? All right. Again, I gave you those 2 promises. I'm going to help you put something that you can use into practice tonight, with the qualifier that creative strategies usually take a little bit of understanding of real estate techniques, and you probably can't get that in one night. You probably have to have been evaluating properties for a month or 2 now. But I promise you, if you've already done that, you can make money with this by the end of the week, all right? If you haven't, you can go back and get the Wholesaling 101 class, and what teaches you driving for dollars. You can take a look at the private lending class. You can take a look at all the other classes we've done this year, and you can have money in your pocket by the end of the month. How awesome is that, right? Okay. Again, as I mentioned, today's charity benefit partner is the Global Youth Initiative of Northwest Louisiana. All right. All that intro out of the way, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm standing up here before you. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually not the one who should be standing in front of you. You know who really should be standing in front of you is my ex-mother-in-law. Her name is Justine, and I watched her use these strategies to build her fortune and her business. And I said, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to do what she did. And then I actually tried to get her to be the one to teach this, because I tell you what, she don't mess around, man. She's like she's like the auntie everybody wants to have, right? And so I realized that I can't. She's over in North Carolina. I'm here. We have to get people educated, because we as a people need to come up. People who have had hours and hours and hours of working, and you've done everything you know how to do. You got to have a way to pull up. And the establishment, the system, it is not interested in helping you lift yourself up by your bootstraps. In fact, one of the things that I've learned is that even the real estate investment strategies that are often ponied about really are nothing more than veiled attempts to keep us down. And that's what happened to me. I've been a financial coach since Larry Burkett helped me get out of debt in 1998, and I've been investing in real estate since buying my very first property in 1999. I fell into the trap that so many investors are hurting with right now, and that is investing through other people's money. I thought that because it was real estate, it would be okay to get into all that debt. But what I didn't realize is the real estate runs in a cycle, up and down and up and down. And when we bought some of these properties in 2007, 2008, the market was climbing. Well, now I know a little bit better. Now when I see the market climbing, I know that cash is king, and I start transferring everything into liquid, because the real estate market is about to crash. But I didn't know that back then. I just looked at the prices and thought, wow, real estate is amazing. Well, I lost everything. And the worst part about it is we daisy chained the debt. So we used line of income, home equity line from one property to fund another property, and so on and so forth. This is what all the gurus teach you, right? That's why I don't teach that, because I've lived it, and it only works for a little bit. It doesn't work long term. And the market right. You can pay off those properties before that cycle hits you. But far too many people are realizing right now with COVID, that cycle comes when it wants to, not when you want to. Okay, so that happened. And right about the time that happened, I went through a divorce, and I got stuck with all that debt. So, like Farmers Insurance, having climbed out of $845,000 of debt, I know a thing or two about getting out of debt and building wealth. And so that's why I now empower women to improve their lives through financial and real estate education. Okay, so that's who I am. But let me tell you why I do what I do. I'm going to tell you why I do what I do. Because when I came home from my military deployment and my marriage had fallen apart and my house was sold and my stuff was thrown out, I didn't have a place to live. Do you know how hard it is to find a place to live when you don't have a place to live? Do you know how hard it is to get anybody to care about you as a single Black mother? Oh my goodness, my life was miserable, and I have vowed I will never be in that position again. And not only will I never be in that position again, but I'm making it my life's mission that my boys and all the people that are important to me, if they want and if they choose, they themselves will be educated so they never have to be in that position again. Now, I'm not saying the Lord doesn't chasten us sometimes, and I'm not saying that into every life a little rain must fall. Okay, those are two things that happen, and if it's your season of leanness, it's your season. But my Bible tells me that the Lord wants me to prosper and be in health, and so I'm going to do what I can to prosper. When you have a big enough why, when you have a big enough why, a big enough reason why this is important, then you will be able to withstand the ups and downs of life and the hardness of certain activities and that being outside of your comfort zone that a lot of this requires, okay? So I want you to think about, when we're talking about all these creative strategies, don't just think about the money, think about the why. Why is it so important? Why is it so important that you build wealth, all right? All right, now we're going to get into real estate. We're going to real estate, but first we're going to do a little foundation from our Real Estate Investing 101 class, okay? First, I want to talk to you about why on earth do I love real estate? Now, I know there's a lot of words. You don't have to worry about all the words, okay? You can just listen to me talking. But for those of you who are like me, you like to see the words. You want to know that nobody's trying to flim-flam you, right? But there are a lot of ways to profit from real estate, okay? We can either profit from the property itself, can profit from an industry that's related to it, such as like being a realtor or fixing things, being a trade, right? You can even profit from extra services that are related to properties, but aren't the properties itself. And I listed there vending machines, because that's a great one. You know, almost every apartment complex could use a vending machine or an ATM, right? And guess what? There are classes out there to teach you how to do vending machines and ATMs. I wish I would have put that ATM class to good use back when I had money coming in hand over fist. Well, I'll be back there one day. Don't you worry. And you'll come along with me for that ride, I hope. Okay? So like I was alluding to earlier, there are 20 plus ways to profit from real estate. I've listed some here. You can find all kinds of lists of even more ways to profit from real estate. But these are the ones that have to do with the property itself, okay? The cool thing about this list is that a lot of these, you don't even have to buy the house. And even better, all those in green there, those you can actually make money on without having your own money. How awesome is that, right? And we're going to talk about, you see subject twos on there today. We're going to talk about some of these strategies today as part of creative financing. So this is why I love real estate, because there's so much opportunity that almost all of us can find a way that works with our personality to profit from real estate investing, okay? And so another thing, as a financial planner, which I stopped being volunteer after that whole divorce thing and coming out of that debt. I started teaching people how to do what I did to get out of that debt, right? And so as a financial planner, I'm always looking for ways for people to rebuild wealth, because a lot of us get gut punched right in middle age. Something happens, or we kind of discover the errors of our youth, or, you know, something happens, the market crashes, a spouse gets sick, we go through a divorce, fill in the blank. Things happen and they knock us down, and we don't have 40 years to get ourselves back up to speed like we did in our 20s. So I love real estate for that. It is the fastest and most solid way as a financial planner that I have seen to build wealth when you don't have time for the market. I still recommend investing in the stock market, but I understand that if you're starting over in your 50s, you need something with a little faster return on investment, all right? And so real estate is the only ethical and repeatable way that I've personally seen that works for almost everybody. Sure, there are other businesses out there. I know people who make easy 7 figures with direct marketing and other things out there, but those are some personality niches. I have more people that come in all these niches that are broke than actually succeed. So I'm not going to recommend any particular one. If you have the personality for something like that, we can do business consulting, and I can help you see what to do, and I can teach you the ways to be successful. We have a fantastic Power 5 class, but I don't see that works for everybody. And these tactics that we've been covering since April in the Real Estate Investing 101 class work for everybody, okay? Now, you might say, well, I know this person and I know that person that lost everything in the market. So did I, because there's a right and a wrong way to invest. Now, granted, there's a lot of different right ways and there's a lot of different wrong ways, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you follow the number 1 rule with real estate, you are going to be successful. So let's talk about that rule. The number 1 rule of real estate investing is you make your money when you buy. I'm going to say that again. You make your money when you buy. You don't buy something now and hope it'll appreciate over 20 years. We do hope it'll appreciate over 20 years, but you got to make your money when you buy. It's so important. I got to say it one more time. You make your money when you buy. That means at the closing table, when you sign your name on that dotted line, you either have equity in the property or money in your pocket, all right? A property that you acquire at 70 to 80% of cost to value will make you money, whether you keep it, whether another investor buys it, whether the market crashes, or whether it climbs up, okay? Sounds Very simple, but it's actually not easy. It's hard work, but it's rewarding work, okay? If it was easy, everybody would do it, you know? It's like losing weight and getting in shape. You know, I've really realized the impact of my health, and I'm really working harder to restore my health. And we all know how to lose weight, right? We all know how to become healthy. We all know the mechanics. We have the intellect. It's not in the knowing. It's actually in the doing. And when it comes to real estate, a lot of people don't do because they're so worried about things and they don't have anybody to help them. And so we all have to start somewhere with real estate investing. And that's why I developed the time money continuum. One of my very first real estate mentors, Sherman Ragland, taught me that there are some investors who have more time than money, which is where I was when I started out. I didn't have any money, but I had lots of free time. And there are some investors that have more money than time, which is where I aspire to be. I'm kind of in the middle right now. At one time, I was over on the far corner. We were pulling a pretty hefty amount of money, but we wasted it. So let's not have that conversation. But the time money continuum lists a lot of those areas that I mentioned as far as the 20 plus different ways to invest in real estate. And what I've done is I've stretched them out. So over here on the left-hand side of the time money continuum, you've got the things that don't require any money to get started. Over on the far right side of the time money continuum, you've got the things that it really requires money. And there's some things like creative financing spans the whole chart. And then you've got private lending, which is on here twice, because you can private lend with a large amount of money and become a hard money lender, or you can private lend with a small amount of money and pool your money with other investors to make a deal happen. Okay, we did that class last month. If you're interested in private lending, I encourage you to take that class. So now let's talk about what creative financing is. I think the easiest way is to start by talking about what the types of financing are, okay? So traditional financing is when you go to the bank and you borrow money from the bank in order to buy property, okay? Creative financing is everything else. You might think, well, why would I need everything else if I could just go to a reputable bank and know that I'm going to get a good solid property, and they're going to require inspections and they're going to require insurance and all that thing? I mean, it sounds like it's all very safe. Well, any experienced investor will tell you that what sounds safe is usually less profitable. And I'm going to give you a couple reasons why just going to the bank to buy your properties is actually less profitable as a real estate investor. Now, for all of you who know my philosophy on buying property, yes, it is true. I do not like to buy property on debt. We'll get to that in a second, all right? But one of the reasons you need creative financing is because the banks are slow. Even the fastest of banks, it's still going to take you about 45 days or so to actually close on that property. Okay, and that's a fast moving transaction with an aggressive loan officer and an aggressive realtor. All right, most deals take 60 days or even longer. Another reason why you're going to want to learn creative financing strategies if you're going to be a real estate investor is that after a couple properties, the banks don't want to keep lending to you. Okay, now if you have years of real estate, if you have years of tax returns showing that you really have a real estate business, and a business is not something that loses money. See, the IRS calls things that lose money hobbies. All right. But if you can show for a couple of years that you've had an actual business that's profiting, then the banks will be more likely. But you got to get to that point first, right? And so the banks don't like to lend after 4 or 5 properties. So creative financing is a popular strategy for many investors. Another reason why creative financing strategies are so important is because banks, they don't like to lend when the market's crashing for real estate. Like if the market is crashing, why would I as a bank want to help you buy a house? I don't know when the crash is going to come. See, that's the thing about real estate. We never know when it's about to crash until it's crashing, right? And you never know how much further down it's going to crash until it starts to climb back up. And so banks are not going to take chances during that time. They're in the business of making money, and they're in the business of making relatively safe money. See, they know that that if they play the long game, they can make millions, billions, trillions off of 1%, 2%, 3% interest, okay? Because they can play the long game and they've got volume of money. We as individual investors, we don't have volume of money. We need to move quickly. We need to get good real estate, good interest rates, okay? And so if we're going to use debt, which I really don't recommend, but when a crashing market, cash is king. When a crashing market, you got to have that cash to put that on that table and get rid of that seller's headache and take that property and create those win-win-win deals. Okay, you can't wait 60 days for the bank because who knows what the market's going to be. The bank's not going to take that chance, and neither should you. All right. Another reason why you should look into creative financing is that when you go, or any lender for that matter, even a private lender, they're going to want you to have skin in the game. And the way the bank's structured, they generally want you to have 10 to 20% of your own money as a down payment. Okay, and if you keep doing that a lot, it could be a lot of outgo for you. And if you haven't structured the deals the best, if you're just getting started, that could actually lead to quite a crunch for you when things go wrong. Okay. Oh, we're missing my slide that says my biggest reason why you need creative financing strategies is because wait. Let me switch the screen here because I want to make sure you hear this. You hear it from me. All right, hold on. The biggest reason why you need creative financing strategies is because I don't like debt. And I don't like to teach you how to use debt. And so the strategies that I'm going to recommend do indeed have to deal with debt, but I don't want you to find yourself stuck with daisy chain properties, $800 and something thousand of debt that takes you 11 years to overcome. Okay, so let's go back to the slides now. Now I'm missing that slide, but I'll make my face the slide on that one. All right. So, oops. Gotta put it back on there. Okay. So that's kind of the reason why we need creative financing. Now let's talk about what creative financing is. All right. We kind of gave it the broad brush. It's everything but going to the bank. Okay. These are different ways. We got here 10 different ways of creative financing. And creative financing is unlimited. It's whatever you can come up with, okay? Now, I'm going to summarize these real quick, and then we're going to talk about the three that are in blue there: land contract, lease option, and subject to. If you want the slides, please give me a donation, and I will send you a PDF of these slides, all right? So real quick, because I don't have the time to go through all of these in details. If you want to go through all these in details, then I recommend that you get with me offline and get into my class that goes into these in details, all right? It's not available on my website because this is an advanced topic and it costs me a lot to put together, so it costs a lot for me to present it to you. And plus, I'm using other people's proprietary materials, so I have to actually compensate them for me using their materials, okay? And you'll see what I mean in a second. So here's a couple ways of creative financing. We're going to talk about land contract, where the seller's the bank; lease option, where the buyer's paid an option fee to lock in a future price; and subject to, where you take over the seller's loan. We're going to talk about those in a minute, okay? Let me briefly paint a broad brush of the ones we're not going to cover today. Private lending is where the mortgage is held by a private individual. So that's kind of similar to a land contract situation, but this is more of this is not necessarily the seller. It could be an individual, or it could be an entity like a partnership, an LLC, your self-directed IRA. Infinite possibilities here, okay? That's private lending. We did this last week. We have an entire 101 free class on private lending, and we have an advanced deep dive class if you want to learn from the mentor who first taught me about this, Alan Cowgill, in addition to my experience with his materials. All right. Another one is hard money loans, and that's a specific type of private lender where you're giving a high interest rate loan to a real estate investor to do whatever they're going to do quickly, like flip the house, right? Another creative strategy is simultaneous closing. So I find a really good deal on a property. I lock it down with the contract. I sell it to another investor or even a retail end buyer if it's a pretty enough home. And I sell it to them for a higher price. We all go to closing. Sellers in one room, buyers in the other room. We do simultaneous close, and I walk out with a check for the difference in the price between what I contracted with them to sell and what I contracted with them to buy. Great thing, great strategy. You don't see the simultaneous close as much as you did when I first got started, but it is a strategy. Short sale is fantastic, and if you are interested in short sales, I hate them. Everybody has their thing, right? This is not mine. But there are two people, Bruce Norton, who originally taught me how, and a new acquaintance that I'm kind of getting to know her, who does it currently as a realtor. If you're interested in this, I can connect you with that. But this was one I'm not going to teach. Basically, the bottom line with short sales, you are convincing the bank to take less than what's owed. So the property is only worth $100,000. The seller owes $150,000. You convince the bank to take $95,000. Okay. It can be an excellent strategy for buy and holds. It's also a lot of paperwork, a lot of patience, and a lot of phone calls. And this gal does not have that kind of patience. Okay, cash out refi is one that I absolutely hate. This is what everybody teaches you to do. You've got your own house or you get control of a property and you basically refinance that. And when you're refinancing, you suck all the equity out as cash, and now you use that to go buy something else. Now, didn't work for me. Okay, it didn't work for my mother-in-law. She bought her first property as a tax sale. She took ownership of that, pennies on the dollar, excellent strategy, right? And she took ownership of that property, turned it around, took the equity out of that property, cash out refi, popped it on another property, turned that around, and continued on. It worked for her. Didn't work for this gal. All right. $845,000 reasons why it didn't work for me. So it's also about the market and the timing. She rode the market up. I saw her success and I jumped in right as the market was crashing, right? Okay. Another one, I love self-directed IRAs. We are actually going to have a whole class on this in October. I think next month is foreclosure consulting and then self-directed IRAs. I love my self-directed IRA. I've used it to invest, and even though I can't touch the money just yet, all the earnings are tax-free, and I can't wait to celebrate my tax-free earnings, all right? So we're going to have a whole class on that in, I do believe it's October. The power of zero, this is where you actually don't get the investor discount, okay? So remember when I talked about buying a property at a discount, and if that's the right, make your money when you buy, Chris McClatchy teaches people how to make great deals by paying full price for property. The gotcha, it's not really a gotcha. It's really a win-win-win. The catch, though, strategy is, I'm going to give you full price for this house. You're going to give me terms that are to my favor. And he's been able to walk into properties, control properties, profit from properties, and ride them out for a couple of years without having to pay. And so that is definitely a powerful strategy depending on your negotiation skills, okay? And again, I don't have time to dig deep into all these. So we're just going to do the top three. And if you'd like the slides, you can send me that $20 donation. Make sure I have your email address. I'll send you a PDF of these slides. All right. Before we get into those three, let me just kind of briefly cover what's not creative financing, because it's funny. I get people who are like, oh, well, as a new investor, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I've been buying houses since 1999, and I've been a real estate investor for reals since 2007. I'm just like, I'm not new at this, right? There's always more to learn, but they like trying to tell me all these things, and I'm just like, no. To me, house hacking, where you're like putting people in the rooms and everything, it's like a boarding house basically. I'm like, okay, they've been doing that for centuries, and that's a headache to me, right? It may work for you, just like I know a lot of women in DC who, when we all got started, they did assisted living facilities and they made bank. Wasn't for me, was for them, right? But it's not really creative financing, okay? It is an awesome strategy, all right? If it's for you, it's not for me. I need my privacy. I did. I tried to, I was gonna have a roommate, And I realized I need at least one place in my life where I can just go in and know that I can start praying. I don't have to pray out anything. I don't have to clear no room. I can just get in and start praying and commune with God. Like I need at least some space on this earth that is all mine. All right. So like we're right for you. FHA, VA, there's all kinds of little tricks that the banks use. One time we bought a house before we realized that loans just aren't our thing. We bought a house where the bank gave us the loan, and then the bank gave us a second mortgage. And the second mortgage, even though they're both on the same property, it was not connected to the property, so we didn't have to pay PMI. And so we're saving money and like, oh, this is such a great trick. Yeah, it's a great trick until the market crashes. Ask me how I know. All right. Another thing that I do want to mention, because we are going to talk about this next month, is foreclosure consulting. Foreclosure consulting is a real estate strategy, but if it's done ethically, it's not creative financing. When people talk about foreclosure consulting as a creative financing strategy, 9 times out of 10, they are stealing homes from people and misleading people. And that's not how I operate, and that's not how I teach. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit more detail about land contract, lease option, which is an extension of this concept, and then the subject to, which is my absolute favorite way to buy property right now. Okay. Land contract is seller financing. So basically the seller is the bank, okay? You're paying the mortgage to the seller. So you have a property. I want to buy your property. I have horrible credit because my ex can't pay his bills. And my husband has horrible credit because actually, that's not why I have horrible credit. I have horrible credit because I don't use it anymore. We tried to buy this house. It was so ridiculous because they were like, we can't find a credit report. But even if I did, let's just say I cared about credit report, right? Even if I cared about credit score, I'll never be able to get a loan because my ex-husband refuses to pay his bills, right? And we're still connected on some things. So you have a great house. I want to buy it. I can't go to a bank, but you know me well enough to trust me. And you're like, okay, JJ, we're going to structure this as a loan, 3% down. We're going to run an amortization table, and you're going to pay me. And so I pay you for this house. I like that strategy, right? The cool thing about this strategy is, 1, you can use it on residential and commercial. And 2, it can be sandwiched. Okay. So now what I mean by it being sandwiched, okay, you have a great house. I buy your house from you with a land contract. So I'm paying you for your house. I'm paying you $500 a month for your nice little house in South Bossier, Sobo, right? I'm paying you for that. Somebody else comes along and they're looking for a house. They've got a couple of kids and they really don't want to live in a townhome and they're trying to live close to the base. And I'm like, you know what? I've seen enough of their financials. Their credit's bad, but I see that they pay their bills on time. So I sell them your house. So you sold me your house. I'm selling them your house. But of course, I'm going to sell them your house for more than I'm paying you for your house. And that's a land contract, okay? Now, the banks don't really like this, so they put a clause in most of their loans that you can't turn around and sell the house to somebody else without closing out the loan through the bank. And we'll talk about that with subject to. Those are the assignment clauses, right? So we have to be very careful about that. But when it's me and you don't have that in your contract. Hey, I'm going to have myself a field day. If I can get somebody to pay more for it than you're charging me, hey, I'm all about the money. And there's nothing unethical about it. All right. So the benefit in this case is me. I'm getting that profit. I'm pocketing that $500 a month minus expenses. And you know what I'm going to say is, well, you're buying the house. So you're in charge of your own repairs, right? The reason that this can be such a great strategy is because it's a win-win-win. The original seller of the house that I'm buying it from is getting some money every month. The person who's buying it from me gets a nice house, even though they have bad credit or whatever situation is keeping them from going the traditional route. Me, I'm happy because I just made money and I can go acquire another property, okay? So that's land contract. Basically, the seller is the bank. Lease option is a little bit of an extension of this technique. Now, I'm going to admit up front, a lot of investors do not like Let me take that back. A lot of investors consider other investors who do lease options to be unethical. There is an unethical way to do this that I have seen people execute, and I don't appreciate it. I don't think we should take advantage of folks, but I mean, a lot of real estate investors are taking advantage of folks. That's why I'm encouraging you to rise above the crowd, okay? So in the lease option, the way it works is I want to buy your house. I can't qualify to buy your house right now. You don't want to take a 30-year mortgage, so you don't want me paying you for 30 years. You want your money, but you're willing to wait a year, and I'm willing to rent it for a year and pay into it and build my credit up so I can go to the bank and actually get a loan and buy the house from you. But in order for you to feel comfortable with that, you want to be compensated for the fact that you're making an agreement with me now to sell a house a year from now or 2 years from now or however long we agree on. That compensation is called an option fee. Now you see the options also in stocks, so don't let it confuse you, okay? It's an option fee. I'm paying you a fee for the right to use your property, rent it from you, and buy it at a predetermined price later on. See, if I didn't pay you that option fee, you could turn around and say, well, I know we talked about selling it to you for $100,000, but you know what? I think you're gonna have to pay me $125,000. See, that doesn't happen when I lock it down in a contract. Now, I already know now I'm going to pay how much I'm going to pay. So I got a little graphical description here, okay? The house is there. I'm leasing it from you for $500 a month. I paid you $1,000 for the right to buy it next year for $100,000. Now, if I thought it was going to take me 2 years to get myself ready to get a traditional loan, you might have been open to me paying you $2,000 and then paying you the fee, but then we would ratchet up the price of the house because in 2 years, the house should be worth more. Should. Isn't always, but should, okay? The cool thing about this is just like with a land contract, it can be residential and commercial, and it can be sandwiched, okay? So in a sandwich, I'm buying the house from you. I paid you $1,000 for the right to buy it next year for $100,000. That's our agreement. A year from now, we're going to go to the closing table and I'm going to buy your house for $100,000. In the meantime, I'm paying you $500 a month to live there, right? That's our agreement. But Sister Sue comes along and she really wants to live in South Bossier right outside the gate. And she's like, hey, I'm looking for a place. Do you know of a place? And I'm like, I might know of a place. And I tell her about the place and she's like, oh, it sounds perfect for me, but my credit is so bad, I can't really get anywhere. And so I ask her to show me her payments. She shows me that she's paid her bills on time for the last year. She pays me an option fee for $3,000 for the right to buy this property in a year at $110,000. And while she's living there now, she can build her credit by paying me rent, which is I'm going to charge her $1,000 a month. You see what I've done here? I'm paying you, I'm buying your house from you in a year. I'm leasing it from you. I paid you $1,000 for the right to lock in that price. And now I've turned around and done the same thing with Sister Sue, only I've charged her $3,000 for the right to buy it from me for $110,000. So not only do I pocket $2,000 on day one of my agreement with Sister Sue, I'm also pocketing an extra $500 a month because that's the spread between what she's paying me and what I'm paying you, okay? And at the closing table, you get your $100,000 from me, I get $110,000 from her, I walk away with 10 grand. Easy peasy, okay? The reason this can be an unethical strategy sometimes is because there's a lot of landlords out there that know that their tenants are never going to qualify, and they just keep renewing the lease option fee, and they just keep getting more and more money, more from the option fee than they're actually getting from the rent. And they don't have to do maintenance because you're buying your own house. See how that works? The win-win-win in this one is very similar to the win-win-win before. For the person I'm buying the house from, they don't have the headaches of having to deal with that house anymore. They got money in their pocket and they don't have to think about this thing anymore. For me, I'm making the spread between what I owe them and what the tenant owes me. And for the tenant, she gets to achieve her dream of home ownership when she thought she could never own her own home. That is the win-win-win. All right. All right. So the last thing we're going to talk about today is subject to, and this is by far one of my favoriteest ways. Now that I know how to do it, is one of my favoriteest ways of buying real estate. Subject to means I'm taking the property subject to the existing loan. You'll see this written as sub and the number 2 sometimes, and you can search for it in Google that way. Sometimes you may or may not have to pay an additional fee. If you get somebody that really, really just wants to be free of a property, they're not going to charge you a fee. They're like, please just make this headache go away, okay? This is a great strategy for properties that have little equity, but you have a very strong rental market where you can pay off that loan and charge a nice rental fee and have a spread. Okay, this is one of my favorite ways to buy properties. I understand that there is a level of debt there, and y'all know I don't like debt. But the way I look at this, the reason that property is a headache for the property owner is because they can't get somebody in there to cover the payments. When I come in and cover the payments, now I'm helping them lose a headache. I'm helping them rebuild their credit. And when I turn around and rent it or lease it to somebody else, now somebody else gets a nice property with a fair landlord and an opportunity to achieve their dream of home ownership that they might otherwise never have had. Okay, and so this particular topic is one that we could spend hours discussing. And I did promise that I was going to give you the opportunity to learn more and to dig deeper, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you're not going to find it on my website, okay? So don't try to, usually I have a thing like, if you buy into it before I finish the talk, you'll get this discount. You can use my code for a discount. We don't have that this time because this is a very special topic. It's a lot of hands-on to mentor you through one of these, and I need to be compensated for my time, basically. All right, but I will tell you about the one that we're currently working on. Okay, this is a very interesting property. I felt really bad at first for the young man who actually brought it to me the most recent time, and then I realized, wait a second, this is the same property people have been bringing me for like 3 years. Other than I didn't feel so bad anymore because we still haven't closed on it, and I don't know that we actually will. But I am offering, like I do with all of my deals, I am offering everyone an opportunity to look over my shoulder, actually look at the contracts, actually see what the negotiations are, actually listen into some of the conversations, walk the property with me and the trades to see what needs to be done. Like, those are the kinds of things that I offer in my JJ's Next Deal class. Again, it's not on my website, okay? So you'd have to contact me privately if this is something you want to do. But this is one of those advanced topics where I need to know that you are serious. And the way you show me that you are serious is by filling out the application and paying the rather pricey fee. Okay. This one I first found out about when it was for sale for $160,000. The owners of this particular facility had bought it 14 years ago for $140,000. It was a couple acres up in Blanchard, and they partitioned it and sold off the parsonage, but there's still a couple acres left for this building, the 5,000 square foot building. Okay. I found out, at the time it was outside of the budget of what I wanted to do. And then we had that car accident, and I just never bothered looking for a property again. We ended up just renting in the mall. And then last year, I actually saw this on Denise Trawick's website, which is Magnolia Properties. She was offering it for $51,000. And the funny thing about it is, the reason I saw it on her website was because some other investor was like, hey, JJ, aren't you looking for a church? Well, yes, I was looking for a church, but we had just renovated the mall, and I was not, we had still not even finished paying that off. For those of you who don't know my saga of trying to find a trading center, we got into the Pierre Bossier Mall. Year 1, water main burst, flooded out. Year 2, tornado came through, destroyed our air conditioning and our plumbing. And then we got everything working together. And then another tornado came through, year 3. So by then I was like, okay, we're done. We're done. But then recently, another young man brought this to me and was like, hey, they just want somebody to take over their loan. And they owe $28,000. And I was like, $28,000. The payments are under 700, so it's about comparable to what we were paying in the mall, which was a discount, y'all. That's not the going rate at the mall. They worked a deal for us, so don't try to get that from them. But then it was like, I could just take over your payments. All we have to do is fix it up. I was good with that. Now, the discussions with it is stalled. So if you know somebody looking for a church building, the sellers are getting older. They would really rather just somebody buy it. And I'm not willing to do that. So I don't know where this is going to go. But we have all of the documentation, all the contracts that we use, all of that stuff that we can use to show you how to walk through this deal, as well as the next one that is in the works. Okay, so if you know somebody that's looking, I think the new price that they're settling on is like 38,000, because they want to walk away with a little something. It needs a lot of repairs though. I personally would not do it with my current family situation if I'm not just taking over the payments. There's a lot of repairs, but I can walk you through that. If you know anybody who needs a church building, we've been in there. We were working on it for a while, and we kind of stalled the things. But that's how the process works. Okay. Other people who I didn't want to put their deals in here. Other people have gotten commercial properties that they just had to take over payments. Other people have gotten properties that were almost paid for, y'all, just like this one, almost paid for. But you never know what somebody is going through. Okay. And even with my dad's property, if I could have gotten a hold of an investor right when he died, if I had lived there and I knew people, well, actually, if I'd have lived there, that property would have gotten fixed up and we would have a renter in it. Even without probate, we'd have somebody in there. But like if I was close enough to the area where I'd been going to the real estate investor meetings and I knew somebody could have come in, took it over. The neighbor next door was a roofer. We could have gotten that thing fixed, and that investor could have been profiting. Now, they may never have owned the property because my dad had so much. My dad had so many back taxes and things, and that investor would have to compensate us over time to be able to pay all that off before the house could be transferred, right? But you could be learning how to invest in real estate with a property that you just took over somebody's payments. You're not going to the bank and losing all your savings. You're not going and paying a hard money lender 20%, every month. Okay, so this is a great strategy to use. It is the strategy that I will talk more in detail about offline for those that are interested. But right now, I have got to wrap this up, and I have got to get ready for Bible study. So if you are interested in learning more, then I want to encourage you to reach out to me about the next deal class. Like I said, I've got all of the contracts from our previous wholesale deal that we did. I've got all the property that I bought and renovated. We got all the contracts for this church deal, got all the contracts for all of these different things that we have been doing over the last couple of years. And for those of you who are in the tax sale class, I don't hold any punches. I show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, if you want to learn more, but you know that you really don't have those deep pockets right now because of COVID, I totally understand that, and it's okay. That deal will still be there when you get a chance, all right? But if you want to learn more right now, I encourage you to go get the Wholesaling 101. It's on my Facebook page, and it's in our Building Wealth Together Facebook group, absolutely free. The Wholesaling 101 will tell you how to get started in real estate investing when you have no money. It'll also tell you how to find these deals, okay? How to find these deals where creative financing works. Also, last month, we did Private Lending 101. And the reason I would encourage you to go into that, although I don't encourage a new investor to delve into private lending, but I encourage you to watch the training because we have a section on care and feeding of creative deals. Okay. And I think it will help propel you to be able to earn enough money to give yourself some margin and some breathing room in your life. Because at the end of the day, that's really what most of us want. You know, most of us would just like for when the check engine light on our car comes on to not feel like we are so worried that we're not going to be able to pay for it. Most of us would just like a little bit of breathing room when our kid comes home and says, well, I have this field trip and it's going to be $100. You know, a lot of us today don't even have that kind of margin in our lives. But if you can go out there and make $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on a wholesale deal, or by structuring a deal with creative financing that another investor takes over and pays you for your time, now you've got margin in your life. And now things are a little easier. And you can breathe. And you can be safe. And you can know that you have what it takes to take care of yourself and your family. I want to thank you all for watching this training today. Again, this was supposed to be a pre-record for tomorrow because I'm going to be at the Police Academy. But I appreciate those of you who've been watching. I thank you, those of you who've shared it. I don't know what I did wrong with the software, but hey, it's a work in progress. I'm learning just like you're learning. Thank you guys for supporting me. Y'all take care and be blessed.